quarter two, 2026. Just a handful of weeks left until Q3 hits. And the question is, how do we leverage these new tools to move faster, to put out higher quality, more profitably, and reinforce a durable market position despite these volatile and rapidly changing times? On the one hand, we have awareness. There's insight to be derived from the onslaught of information, of new information, very much like standing at the base of a great waterfall, the falls. This stream of information is more aggressive, higher volume, faster running than ever before. 2 generations back, my papa, he got a freaking newspaper for a nickel somewhere and read a couple paragraphs, and that was his information digest for the week. Maybe they flipped on a radio station and heard whatever the commentators were talking about. At nighttime, we have more information now than any human brain can possibly comprehend or cut through. So it's essential. It's more essential now than ever before to have the hive mind, the collective consciousness, multiplicity of perspectives contributing to the greater good, a rising tide floating all boats scenario. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Logan Skis. I'm a Marine infantry veteran turned startup founder. I've learned a thing or two about how to capture an idea, how to frame and formulate strategy, a vision for a CEO, and reflect it back at them in a way that we can easily validate with the picture they have in their minds, as well as sifted through frameworks and best practices that have been established for generations. And that formulation strategy, the enablement of strategy formulation, is very high. It's in the top 3 bullet points for responsibilities of that role, the second in command. At the top of the list, some people call it P&L ownership, profit and loss ownership. Some people call it executing the business model. Some people call it operationalizing the plan. I think strategy execution are the 2 words, the single term that defines the top bullet point and my job description. Over the years, my clients, my colleagues, many of whom I now am honored to call friends, have looked to me for strategy execution. It's not sitting down to have a structured dialogue around market positioning and risks and opportunities. It's not a executive faculty of resource allocation alone. It is 1 foot in that world, 1 foot in the chaos, disorder, and friction-based grind that is operations. Tactical execution of a strategy, right? Bringing a plan to life, operationalizing it. That's the hard part. The cool thing is that today we're closer now than ever before to have operating units of individual contributors, groups of ICs, of individual contributors that are synthetic, that are virtual, that are the closest thing to free that they've ever been. If you're a student of Tim Ferriss, the 4-Hour Work Week, maybe you came across some of that literature some years back. The whole promise and idea of overseas-based virtual VAs, virtual assistants, is really encouraging, because we would think, wow, I could pay $5 an hour for someone to work full-time on a specific function within my business through the laptop. I could be in the south of France enjoying an espresso with my family on the marina. Meanwhile, I've got a team of VAs in Southeast Asia and out in Pakistan and in South America, executing on various roles and functional areas within my business to effectively automate customer acquisition and fulfillment, to build a revenue and delivery infrastructure that is self-reinforcing and self-optimizing. And I'm detached from operations, and I'm detached from management, And we're moving higher and higher in the order into the investor class, which is the most advantageous, highest leverage position in the world. That's one skill set required to be a good second in command, to help extract the vision that's primarily seated in the mind of the founder. So if you can help with that, then you've got that one attribute. The next attribute is much more difficult. That's why it's probably at the top of the list at that number one spot, which is strategy execution, a deep, meaningful tether to the feasibility, to what can be done. I'm talking about the visionary throws down a crazy idea and you start thinking, how much of that is possible? And in what format is that possible? And in what areas does that make absolutely no freaking sense at all? And what questions do I have to ask to help lead them to their own conclusions? It's a agency maximizing approach, right? That's why you're the second in command. It's a humbling position to be in. You have to consistently subjugate your own ego consciously. It's not just like this thing that you show up to and simp out for some alpha, right? You are showing up, maxing out in your capacity to hear another person and to see them in a way that no one else can really see them. Cameron Herold wrote the book, The Second in Command. He was an all-star COO. He's founded the COO Alliance. Awesome dude. Totally recommend his book. He says one of the chief requirements of a good COO hire is personality fit with the CEO. That's important. I'll try to thread the needle here. Strategy enablement, like actually helping create what we're going to do, is important, but it's a secondary skill. Strategy execution is the first. You have to be, first and foremost, a tactician, an operational leader, someone who is in the doing of the things, day to day, week to week, minute to minute. You got to be the guy on the ground, boots in the trenches, like elbow grease type stuff. That's you. Already that unqualifies the majority of people. Just those two things. And the reason is pretty straightforward. Most operations people lack a really sophisticated executive faculty. So sitting at the table with the CEO, their contributions are relatively limited. Their input is valuable, but coming in as a subordinate, not as a peer. So that's you think high, low leadership, strategy and operations, strategy and execution, how we have the theory and practice. The two worlds have to coalesce. They have to interface and exchange when done really well. That's why we say as operators, as integrators, we have to field information vertically and horizontally throughout an organization. We have to build the nervous system for those lines of information flow and do that in a cultural context, which is primarily relational, psychological, behavioral. If only it was so easy as to make it infrastructure. We're fortunate now that we're closer than we've ever been to that being possible with AI and agentic workflows. And I'm the first in line with enthusiasm for that front, knowing acutely how difficult it is to professionalize a small service-based organization. That type of beast, that size animal, that's just been gutted through by the founder's grit and determination to the point of wobble, right? It's shaking. Standardization has to occur. Healthier dynamics have to occur. These sorts of things are really important in order to break through and scale beyond that. So how do we execute strategy? First and foremost, we have to realize that adaptability is the mother of execution. Adaptability. And consistency is the father. So to be consistently adapting, that is the name of the game. When you're thinking about doing the things, right? I don't know if you've ever seen that meme before. It's a guy in the brain. Let's see if I can pull it up. Do the plan.
All right, we just made ourselves a plan. We're so good at planning. Valuable that exactly for us to do the plan. Do it. Take a 5-minute break, 10 minutes, 1 hour, get the plan.
Exactly. That's what I'm talking about. That's the hard part, right? That's the doing of the plan. That's why someone who has the ability to be in operations and in the executive function, who can be a high and low leader, is exceptionally rare. Operations is messy. It's really messy. Hence the adaptable part. You think something is one way, it looks like one way on the slide deck presented at the quarterly meeting, but then that following Tuesday and the one after that and the one after that, consistently week after week getting into the mix, it's just a ball of yarn all tangled up. And to not lose yourself in that environment, to not be in the fog of war, to maintain a conscientiousness of the end state goal, the ends that we're working towards, the means we're leveraging to get there, to go from current state to target state for business transformation, to close that gap, to be active in executing according to best practice in a culturally relevant manner every single day in a rapidly changing environment, demanding unceasing levels of adaptability. Not exactly easy, right? To be accountable for outcomes, it's tough, but it's the best place to be. It really is, because you become invaluable. You become an asset to the organization in the truest regard. So, task master. Let's look at this. Task master. One thing I've learned over the years is the importance of first principles. Every business is unique, every personality, and no two personalities are truly the same. Everyone is like they're a fingerprint. And we all live within the same day. We all are given the same amount of time in a day. And there's certain other universal elements that we all live through. So outside of time, there's if you bake down business, if you bake it down and you just continue distilling and distilling, it's okay, cool. So as a real world example, we've got a medical practice in a certain region, call it South Florida, with 2 locations and 30 staff. Some of them are virtual, some of them are in person. It's at this run rate. It's at this level of annual revenue. It's at this level of profit margin. It's got this cap table or ownership structure. You can start defining the structure of that beast, that animal, and all in the business ontology zoo. You can kind of see what exhibit it would live in, just with those things alone. Been in operations for this many years, that type of stuff. It's churn is this, it's net promoter score is this, it's employee attrition is that, it's current hiring plan and is this, it's CAC to LTV is that. So its conversion rate is booking rate. You can start getting really granular and nuanced, but just with those variables defined, you can start to see contours of that structure coming to life. But if you go lower than that, like from a categorical standpoint, and you start saying, okay, let's just look at the type of business. It's a service-based business. So forget about all this specificity on size and revenue and headcount. Let's just talk about the type of business it is. If you went to some government website like the SBA, and you're looking at industry, or maybe that's it. So maybe we just say, okay, it's not even a service, B2C service business in the health industry. It's just health industry. And then you say, okay, health industry is crazy amounts of stuff in it, but it's one industry in the economy. So you zoom out again and you say, okay, it's a private sector. So there's private sector and there's public sector. And then it's, okay, well, what if you go above that even further? Bear with me. Then you're really looking at, you could say, okay, there's defense, right? There's the military and there's the government, which is also the military, but you have defense and public and private, and you can start looking at it as sectors, right? And everything essentially falls into that. So then if you dare to say in a descent towards madness, what's What does all of it fall under? And it's endeavor. It's human endeavor, right? So it's all unified under the pursuit of goal attainment, right? Of achieving a desired end state. Okay, it doesn't matter if that means raiding a village in Afghanistan or building a technology startup or serving glutathione and peptide shots to wealthy people in Boca Raton, right? It's all a pursuit of goal attainment. So if you boil it down to that first principles level, there's certain things that are true. And then finding those truths help us adapt to the unique needs of our circumstances. I like to say that principles transcend individual circumstances. So the more principles we can bake into our brains, the clearer and a higher resolution our perspective is and our decision-making ability is moment to moment, which is where it matters most. One of those things I've found is that the lowest common denominator from a strategy execution standpoint is the task level. If we're talking about like divisibility, if you divide a company down, it's task level. So we're saying human endeavor is ubiquitous across every sector of business and defense and the private sector, the defense world, public, et cetera. The task level is unanimous. What else do they have in common, right? Not just what separates them, but what is the same. And the task level, whether you're flipping a burger or building a car or mining for ore, flying a jet, dropping a bomb, building an Etsy store, those things all would fall within a container we refer to as tasks. So they're tasks. Now, there's different types of tasks. There's different sizes of tasks. Some are physical, some are virtual, some are automated, some are manual. But there's emergent tasks. There's tasks that were pre-planned and anticipated. There's tracked and untracked tasks, right? But tasks are the lowest level of divisibility for all human endeavor. You could be Ernest Shackleton trying to cross the Antarctic Circle in the 1800s and trying to run dog sled teams, executing on tasks. You could be the Marines in Iwo Jima during World War II, lifting up the American flag. You could be a humble burglar breaking an in-ring. All human endeavor is united by task sets. It's just part of the human experience. And if we just take that philosophical, more heady consideration for a moment, we think, how does that apply to my business? How does that make any sense during the AI world? Well, what do you have to do to grow your business? What do you have to do to basically be sitting where this guy's sitting? They're in the middle of the workday and there's no calls or notifications or hair on fire urgent requests for problem solving. You've got customer acquisition running. You're getting customers. Marketing and sales operations are united and efficient and effective and industry leading performance. The threshold of performance is like industry leading. And likewise, is fulfillment, your retention, your service delivery and onboarding. That stuff is very healthy and running autonomously. Like you're building a sellable business, not just a scalable business, a sellable business. That's the kind of business you want to own. It's not just you got yourself a 24/7 job. It's you built an asset, a self-optimizing enterprise with a durable market position. That's the stuff where the desirability of your offers in the marketplace are high. The feasibility of your ability to deliver is high. The viability, the profitability of your company is high. And the adaptability, its ability to move and flex and be dynamic in a changing environment is high. Those things are all true for your company. That's the stuff, right? That's what it's all about. At the lowest possible level, we have to track our tasks. What gets managed gets improved, right? What gets measured gets improved. So the very first thing is task tracking. For years, I have been in a position where I've had to come into a business. I'm meeting with the CEO, I'm the founder, I'm meeting with the executives, and we spend weeks, hours and hours of time getting a current state analysis. Where are we from all these variables combined? We try to look at as much as we can in as compressed period of time as we can, as much volume and quality in a tight time period, right? It's drinking from a fire hose. And then you get into operations, they kind of cut you loose and you start meeting with all of the department heads, the managers. And then you start meeting with some individual contributors, some employees, and you do your best to listen and observe and understand. And you're reading reports and you're studying data and you're looking for insights. And eventually, without too much delay, you start assembling a pattern, a coherent takeaway. And you assemble that into an executive facing narrative where you can deliver a bite-sized, so what? And it's an 80-20 principle. The CEO is going to talk 80% of the time, most of the time. That 20% input is the lever and fulcrum thing, where you have to contribute to strategy enablement, to the formulation of strategy. You enable that with your input. That's that lever and fulcrum thing. Talked about a lot over the years. Lever and fulcrum is a thing. You basically give them that leverage because they trust your perspective. You're a high-low leader and you have a good personality and culture fit. You are a believer in the vision and their leadership style. And you've demonstrated the character requirements to succeed in both worlds. So that's critical in the skill set to survive in both worlds, to succeed. Now, usually what we come into, what we find is that the stuff that's needed is shockingly basic, like super foundational. And implementing those basic things is beyond difficult. It's hard. It's hard to get organizational coherence and to have multiple individuals executing a process, a series of tasks in alignment with a brand standard, right? In keeping with the golden mean, like the golden standard. This is the way we do things on this specific SOP and this standard operating procedure. And there's some room for variation. People can always do better, and we want to learn from that to set the standard higher. People can do worse, but not too much worse. But if somebody's doing it completely their own way, we want to understand what the outcomes of that are, because continuous improvement is important. But standardization and professionalization is usually the medicine required to go from that place of for 7-figure earning and to beyond. You have to standardize, you have to professionalize, you have to systematize, and you can't grow to $10 million a year and beyond if your business is a leaky bucket for customers or employees. And if everything is chaotic all the time inside of a company, employees will leave. So that's needs to be fixed. If the service delivery quality is up and down and variable, you're going to lose customers and you're going to harm your reputation. And that's just going to be like putting water into a bucket with holes in it. So we have to make the situation not that, right? So one of the first things we have to do is track what we're doing. It's one thing to operate a business, to run it, the day-to-day stuff. It's another thing to build it. So when we're talking about our quarterly plans, and that's really what it boils down to, we're looking at, hey, we got to do this to grow our business over the course of the next 3 months, call it. And we have to do that this quarter because it's like, we need to increase our lead flow. We need to dial in our conversion rate. We need to hire this new role. Those things are building the business. We call those strategic initiatives. The other things like responding to leads, sending out proposals, like rendering client projects, those are core operations, right? I hope I'm not losing you guys. So you have to have the idea that says, okay, that whole thing, we had to build a new website. Where we have to do that. We have to do those tasks on a daily and week-to-week basis, mixed in with our operational stuff. And that's usually where the problem is. Nobody's tracking it really well. People don't usually like ClickUp or Asana or Notion or Trello or Linear or Jira. Like, they don't really like them that much. Like, nerdy project managers, myself included, we like them because it's part of our job to use them. But everyone else, usually there's an aversion, there's a friction. First of all, if you've got into any of those tools, it is overwhelming. And the data entry is so high friction, nobody wants to do it because it's just more work that doesn't contribute to the real quote unquote work that has to get done, right? If I've got an employee who's servicing client projects, they don't want to do data entry into a project management system so we can track what they're doing, right? They don't like that. And when done wrong, it has a big brother surveillance state type of thing, and it can really go off the rails. But on the other side, if we don't track anything, we have no freaking clue how much is being done, at what standard, by whom, besides the implicit ego-based reporting, which I would say is implicit human reporting is fallible. It's like failable. You can't really rely on that as the single source of truth. So there has to be a happy middle ground. We need to say, okay, how much of our week are we actually using? If we're paying for someone to work full time, are they working full time? That's the first question we have to ask. We think they are. They tell us they're busy all the time. They say they're overwhelmed and they're busy and they're stressed, but what are they doing? And those are the questions that I usually just ask. I'm not afraid to be the dumbest guy in the room and just be like, oh yeah, so so-and-so is just saying they're so busy and it's so hard because everything is extreme. What are they doing? And for so they're running on this project and they're doing this and they're doing that and they're picking up slack because it's doing this. Like, yeah, cool. But what did they do last week? Oh yeah, they pushed it. They got a deliverable out for this client and they executed on these things and they put together that for us. Cool. How are we tracking that? Oh, text. Click up a little bit. I'm like, can we see that? The business owners, yeah. Or the employee, sure. Going to click up, it's like an 8-month-old space or an 8-month-old folder, or maybe like it literally says, do brochure. It's like, where's the brochure at? Oh, it's somewhere over here. Oh, wait, that's the version 2. Let me just see if I can call it. It's on their, oh yeah, it's on their desktop. No, sorry, it's in Dropbox. That's the crap that you deal with. That's why I said before, operations is messy. Most people want to get to an executive space and just dump everything down the org chart and just leave the chaos and the mess for people to figure out. The problem is those people never figure it out. It's not their job to figure it out. Right? They don't want to do that. They don't want to straighten out your organization. You're paying them a decent wage to barely survive in today's economy. And they already have more than enough work on their shoulders. So what is this all leading to? I have had to spend hundreds, maybe thousands of hours working with founders, executives, managers, individual contributors, at individual and small group and all hands levels, every size of grouping you can imagine, 1-to-1 all the way up to all hands, on technology training and adoption and understanding how to integrate these things. And I am telling you, dude, I don't recommend it. It's not fun. It's not easy. It feels like an effort and futility most of the time. But one thing I learned a long time ago is if you view yourself like Chinese water torture, which is basically a drop on the forehead, a dude's basically like strapped to a table and there's just a small drip until the person breaks. That's a little violent for YouTube, but that's how I feel. Just show up consistently. Just show up every single day. I will never stop. I will adapt. I have a level of conscientiousness and environment sensing. That read is really important to shift and calibrate and fine tune the strategies we enact on the world around us, right? That's the shifting means we're using to reach our desired ends. But I'm going to be consistent. I'm just going to show up. And usually, if you're more consistent, if you're the most consistent person in the entire room, in the entire organization, you're just always going to show up and clearly state in a culturally relevant manner the expectation and have the authority and the leadership prowess to be genuine about that. This is the standard. And smile and be patient. You will win. It will happen. So there's that. But forcing a square peg into a round hole is what it feels like bringing any set of individual contributors or teams into most project management solutions, right? If you're looking at the Jiras, Notions, ClickUps, Asanas of the world, Trellos even, they are painful to use. And user adoption is like fiercely difficult. Okay, I hope I've driven that part home. So that's why I made this, because I have had to stitch 15 different things together and hold them all and force them all. And through great pains and effort, I've had to labor on assembling a planning horizon, because when we're sitting with the CEO and we're sitting with the executive team and the owners, we're talking about where are we this week, this month, this quarter, this year, and how is that affecting our longer range vision and beyond? What do we want to do to scale this company over the course of the next 3 years? Where do we want to be 3 years from now? Where do we want to be a year from now? What's the ultimate big, hairy, audacious goal, the North Star, the BHAG? What is the ultimate picture for this? And then walking it back, usually at that weekly level, is this stepping off point. And that's hard to usually establish. We can talk about weekly planning another time. But the day-to-day, tethering that day-to-day, that's the magic that most people miss. It's easy to show up on a weekly meeting and signal how much has been done. Nobody has freaking time to zero in on the details. Is it done or not? Let us see it. Okay, cool, let's go. Now, the nuance is often missed in those weekly meetings. You get a A-type personality who's full of grit and determination, and they get in there like freaking Bowser going Banshee mode on just trying to check the box on this pesky thing, taking everyone out of operations for an hour and a half. And no one's going to check on the details. That's the thing that erodes the quality of the entire company end to end. That's why I made Taskmaster, because it's the thing that I wished I had. I wish that every tool I've used in different companies over the years did this, but none of them do. None of them do all of it. And the things that they do is decent at best. That being said, I am biased to my own experience and perspective. And on the Big Five Scientific Personality Traits Finder, aesthetics is like the number one subtrait that I have, like 87 or 98% out of 100. So that's me. Now, understanding your planning horizon is essential. If you've ever done a market analysis, you can do top down or bottom up. And they both have different kind of best practices associated with them. They're both valid. They're both important. Likewise, when we're talking about a planning horizon, a lot of the times it's top down. It's, hey guys, here's the strategic initiatives for the quarter. These are the main projects we have to do in order to move our business revenue forward and achieve these goals we want to have done by the end of the year. For Q2, we need these 3 or these 5 initiatives to be ran. So you're running this one. So you're running that one, right? It's that type of thing. It's top down. And getting that bottom up feedback of what happened when we're trying to do that. And if you think of it in a warfare context, you say, okay, if we've got troops in the front lines and they're engaging with the enemies, we want those battlefield reports. We want to know what's happening in the front lines. Usually that part is difficult. to have high resolution, low friction for all parties involved, because it means day-to-day task tracking. Now, some software out there does a fantastic job at this, but they serve businesses like Home Depot, right? You got to part with $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 for a few seats, like an annual subscription for 3 seats. You got to pay almost $100,000 just to get into some of this process mining, task mining capabilities. And that's another tool and a series of tools that everyone's already tired of using already. And all those tools are just supporting the work that actually moves the business forward. So you can imagine 2, 3, 4 levels removed at the small business level, 7-figure earnings at that revenue band between 1 and 5, 1 and 10 million, maybe. It's an indirect contributor, but I would say probably that 1 in 5 million space, annual revenue. There's very low tolerance for that type of stuff, and justifiably, that it is important and it is an accelerant. It is a force multiplier. So I came to think, how do we get day-to-day tracking? Because that's the basic thing I talked about earlier. You need to have day-to-day tracking because that's where tasks are done. And tasks, if you decompose initiative, if you decompose a project, you say, okay, and you look at a work breakdown structure, right? If you look at a work breakdown structure, this is how we define deliverables. This is how we define phases and what has to get done to run a project through to completion. It ties directly into timelines or Gantt charts. Okay, here's the 50 things we have to do for this initiative, and here's when we have to do them by, basically. And you can see it's kind of like a family tree where we can say, okay, we got phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. And phase 1, there's 3 things. So it's 1.1, 1.2, 1.3. And within 1.1, there's 3 things. So it's 1.1 and then 0.2, 0.3. That's called decomposition, right? Now, project management lecture will have to go on another day. I'm running tight on time. But see, it all comes down to, okay, cool. We know we have to do this thing, and we know this thing has this many pieces to it. And we know within each of these pieces, there's this many deliverables or artifacts or assets. And then you just keep on going. How are we going to produce that deliverable? We got to do this and this. And if you just keep asking those questions consistently, you get to the task level. And that's very important for scaling a traditional business, even more so for scaling an agentic business with virtual employees, because you have to have the taste and the discretion and the ability to orchestrate and the ability to assume accountability for outcomes. Now more than ever, everyone is a COO. Everyone is an integrator and the CEO, right? All the solopreneurs that I work with, they have to wear both hats, the visionary and the integrator. So everything I'm talking about is relevant to everyone in business, for themselves and everyone in those small business environment that are running companies. So the best thing we can do is to make the daily planning frictionless, a joy. In fact, we want it to have gravity to it. So it's not about just punching you in the eyes with this insane amount of interface complexity. It's about inviting you in. It's not the interface is punching out at you, it's pulling you in. But pulling you in a way that's graceful, that's focused, and that's realistically inclined to the way the human mind work on a day-to-day basis. I'm showing up on a Thursday with my first cup of coffee, sitting on a freaking laptop. Do I want to look at 3,000 buttons that look like Bill freaking Gates designed it in the 1990s? No. Just because you round the corners and put a colorful gradient on the buttons doesn't mean it's a user interface that belongs in 2026. I always say the system has to serve the people. The people shouldn't be serving the system. And most of these tools are that anti-pattern. They're that negative, like a virus of a software that infect the human mind and make us overly strained to get the things we want done. Systems need to serve the people, right? So We just launched our updated morning planning. Okay, running tight on time. What's on your mind? Finish live stream on tasks / perspectives. Cool. Sweet. What's worth carrying over from yesterday? Nothing. Wonderful. I'll have to show you the carryover from yesterday function next time. It was one of my favorites. Prioritize. Okay, what's the one thing that has to happen? Well, probably this one. All right. Good. Sweet. Let's go. And go. Oh, I see. Actually completed it. Well, there we go. Cool. So now I've run through my daily planning. I have my task and I'm tracking my task in a focus mode. We can talk a little bit more about orchestration on the next round, but that's it for Taskmaster. That's the thought process behind why this thing exists in the first place. Now we're going to just run through two quick other things here. So if we consider capabilities, we have to tie them to functional areas inside of business. What the heck does that mean? A functional area is basically attached to a job, usually a type of job. So for example, if we talk about content marketing, that is a functional area. Sure, it's a type of marketing, but if we're looking at an organizational chart and we're hiring roles to execute on certain tasks and processes to do certain things, they're going to have a functional area. And if we're trying to automate as much of our business as possible, we need to be realistic with, okay, what type of automations need to be built and which functional area? So for content marketing, as an example, there's different automations required than funnel management, designing and managing funnels, sales funnels versus cold outreach versus customer success, right? Those are all very different things. There's overlap. For example, when we're running a outbound motion for our sales efforts, there is an overlap between getting into Apollo and Prospeo and Clay and Instantly and running outbound efforts and N8N and Cloud Code, right? That's one thing. But at a certain point, they're going to hit landing pages for booking, for VSLs, whatever. And there's overlap. So there's cross-functional dynamics with all functional areas. But that's the kind of the high-level concept when we think, okay, we want to solve the hair on fire issue, the painkiller, not the vitamin, and we want to get a foothold into the most high-value areas of our business, but also our clients' businesses. Strategy execution is certainly the first one because that is, like I've said before, the container that everything else goes into. Yep. So if you're interested in Taskmaster and you want to be the first in line to join, we will have a free tier. Right now, we're in early user testing, really excited with the results we've been seeing, with the feedback we've been getting. Thank you to the early testers. Every member of our community that's in the asymmetric operators community actually has a privileged access to all of the automation tools that we deploy, first being Taskmaster. So if you want to be at the top of the waitlist, I would encourage you to come in and join the waitlist, but also jump in the community. It's free and we'd love to have you in there and get access to Taskmaster very soon. We'll talk more about the rest of Taskmaster's capabilities, the vision behind it in the next video. But it is Saturday and it's close to family time. So I'm going to just circle the wagons here on next steps. Media Machine. I just deployed this before we go too far. I know it's like a false start Media Machine. Stand by. Also, look, guys, this is live. It is like a baby giraffe, right? You ever see those wobbly legged baby giraffes that come out? It's like, you got to stand on your own or the hyenas are going to get you type of thing. And that's where I'm at with this. This is the most recent rendition of something I have personally had to run for years. well over a decade. And back in the olden days, it was done by hand because you had to read a lot of books to figure out how to do it. And it was by no means automated. By the grace of God and the technology advancement, it's automated. And what's even cooler, it's free. So you're welcome. I made for you what I dearly wished I had many times, staying up late, scribbling down decks, figuring out how to make slides in Google Slides and PowerPoint. Now it's yours. So the first way we start is by anytime we have to run a strategic planning process, we need to figure out what constraints we're operating within. And this will help you with that. So I'll circle back to the video here, but basically you just run through, answer, we got 13 questions. These leads, predictable flow of leads, never true, qualified prospects, turn into paying clients, repeat the sales process, rarely true. And blast through it. Okay. And name, LS, skis, email, logan@theventuremap.com, and VentureMap. Okay. So this is essentially a lead magnet, but it's a crazy lead magnet because this is the thing that business owners have paid me money to do on a quarterly basis for years. So what started as I need to document my processes to make this less different every single time, to, I bet I could actually automate a few of these things. We develop the process and do process improvement and automation discovery. And then it's okay, cool. Some of this stuff can be automated, and then, oh, sick. We automate, let's run that. And we run it another time and another time. And every time we do it, we improve. And now it's at a point where it's pretty cooked. It's well cooked in that standpoint. I know that Gen Zs have a different meaning of the word, but it's a known thing. It's a known process. The mechanism is very well established. It's been done a lot of times. So the user interface and the aesthetics, the design and delivery of it is new. I just finished this up at the end of last week, but you'll basically get a kind of a cool little editorial report that walks you through the constraints. And I'm experimenting with a few different approaches to this, but that's what we're looking at as of now. It's a step one to a follow-on action, which is the growth planning step. And this is what separates the boys from the men, because this will require a little bit more thinking, but it will compound. So let's check this out. All right. So here's an example of that report. You answer it and you get a video.
Welcome, Logan. This is your custom growth plan for VentureMap, built from your intake responses and constraint diagnostics. Over the next 9 cards, we will walk through what is back where you are headed and what to do this.
Wow. Thank you. And then if in the process that we take clients through, you need to give feedback. So we can just come through and you can look at it slide by slide.
The next 90 days are where this becomes real. Like,
okay. Love it. Change this for that. Sweet. All right. And I want to book a call. Bang. So that's all there. That's free. If you want to run through your Constraint Finder, I encourage you to do it. Figure out where you're at. If you want the growth plan, you can do that as well. You're welcome to book a call with me after. You can just kind of click a book, call, and find some time. I do my best to make availability, to make myself accessible. Let's see. One of the things the legendary Alex Hormozy talks about, pillar 1 of lead nurture is, can you read that? Availability. So learn and adapt, my friends. Now, that's Constraint Finder. Under the hood, we've got a automation that will make your eyes water. Seriously, there's behemoth is what is running it. This is how that video is made. Just think, I used to have to do all of those tasks by hand from memory. And now, some years later, it's a great effort. It's automated. And what's even cooler, and I'm actually not affiliated with these guys, but I don't want to give a false impression. I used Cloud Code and Cinta to build that whole thing. I actually did not assemble a single node in that innate automation, which is cool. I didn't directly do it. I wasn't being it in Canvas. So thanks to Cinta, again, not affiliated with them, but I think they're awesome. I'll drop the link below. It's not an affiliate link, just so you guys have ease of access to that. I know it sucks whenever somebody's talking about something and then you're like, what was it called again? So I'll make sure that's down below. So yeah, that's kind of how that goes. That's baked into Taskmaster because it facilitates the quarterly planning process. And we need quarterly plans as long as we're in business, which is hopefully a long time until we exit on our terms with a meaningful liquidity event. And then stay around for a second and third bite of the apple, right? That's what it's about. That's the game that we're playing, in other words, as business owners. So that is available to you. I want to show you guys, check this out. We're going to start branching into media here in the last few minutes. This is a video I produced in an afternoon as a promo video for the lead magnet I just built. My idea was really badass if we put together, if the stuff we're promoting on the top of funnel is as cool and as high quality as the paid products, like the best paid products of other people. And I'm not saying that we've hit it here, but directionally, this is what I think is required for 2026, for 2030, right? The standard has to be so much higher. So this is a lead magnet promo video. Let's go. You're not short on ideas. You're probably drowning in them. And the harder question, the one that actually moves the business, is which one fix first? Most founders guess. They say, I need more leads. But it's rarely just leads. Sometimes the offer is the problem. Sometimes it's sales. Sometimes delivery is eating you alive. That's why I built the Constraint Finder. 12 questions. 3 minutes. It scores 6 parts of your business: lead flow, sales, offer, delivery, apps, and your own success, and tells you the one that's actually tracking your growth right now. You'll walk away with your primary constraint, a secondary one to keep an eye on, and a single 90-day project worth your pay. Stop fixing the wrong thing. Find your constraint first. That's that. When it comes to producing media, that's where it starts to matter a lot. You can get away with being lazy on internally to your business for a long time, as I've talked about earlier. Business owners are able to knock out pretty significant progress. They're able to hit multiple millions a year through just gutting it out, grit and determination stuff. And so they don't have to do strategy execution to become initially successful. And it certainly helps and it makes a difference. But when it comes to content, that's the area where people are like, oh, you've got content automations. I've got IP. How can we make this high leverage and efficient for my time? And that's what we've spent the last specifically 2 years really trying to understand. And we've learned a lot. The space is changing a lot, but I'm excited to share Media Machine as a capability set. We've got an incredible partner in the space that has it's humbling to call him a client. And I would say a mentor, a hero of mine, Don Miller, wrote a book called The Story Brand. And he talks about this thing. He's got a framework called the brand script. And it's basically talking about a hero and a character. That's funny. He talks about it and it used to talk about it as a hero with a problem that meets a guide and gives them a plan and calls them to action and leads them to success and avoids failure. Right. And positioning a client as a hero is something I always had to really do mentally, to be honest with you. It wasn't ever something, I didn't start working with someone, man, this person's my hero, which it may be hubris, but I admired some of the people I've worked with, certainly because of what they've achieved and certain leadership characteristics and character traits, but never really thought, man, this person is my hero. But I will tell you, there is one individual in particular that I've had the pleasure of working with who goes by the name of Mr. Adam Coffey, that is an absolute legend and a hero in my list, like no other. So I'm grateful to be working with him, to have worked with him, and it's just a privilege, sincerely. So Media Machine is that capability set of helping those business owners optimize and automate much of their media output. More details to come on this in the next one, but this is something that I'm just now surfacing, and we have some pretty significant work on early testing done for this. And I'll tell you, I'm stoked to make it as powerful and as accessible as we possibly can in the coming months. I've got a play in mind to allow access to the core capability set to members of the community. And it'll be a bring your own API key type of thing. And there'll probably be options for concierge onboarding at first. So I'm going to have to tier it down to ensure that the people we bring in actually get results. If you just open up the thing and it's still early stage, it might be premature. We'll get to the point where it is accessible. I'm very confident of that. Disintermediating the labor required to deliver these things is hand in glove for what we're building. So I'm confident the need for me will be disintermediated very soon, if not before the end of the year. But by this time next year, I'm confident that'll be the case. Yeah, that's Media Machine. And last, I'll just say, we punched ahead a lot on our actual work for VentureMap. Right now, we're sitting at 5 volumes in the Invisible Architecture series. So these are the first books I've had the pleasure of generating. They're an externalized form of my research, understanding how people throughout history have gotten a disproportionate advantage during times of structural revolution, understanding the terrain of human endeavor. We started talking about that earlier. Like what does human endeavor have in common and what's the underlying principles there? How to build persistent autonomous organizations. That's a big area of interest for me, are replacing cognition. Oh, so yeah, it's funny. I'm staring straight at it, but I'm thinking about the next one. The translation layer, which is about levels of abstraction and information flow, which we started talking about earlier as well. Super, super cool couple of first chapters here. Recommend you just give it a shot. And then on replacing cognition, this is the architecture of perception and processing and decision-making, but ultimately it's about understanding a real clear picture of cognition, because that is the thing that's currently being replaced. And then the asymmetric operators is coming up soon, which is a bit of an amalgamation of all of these, but very tactical in nature, and I'm excited to get that one out the door. This one is a fun exploration for me in particular, which is expanding into the very first law of the first book, which is the physics of asymmetry on constraint migration, and decided to build out historical fiction. It's just historical fictions that elucidate the points that are made further through compelling narrative based on real world events, but where we've taken creative liberties to bring it to life in a meaningful way. So the first one we've got deployed. This is all done in the last month. Keep me honest there. The first Taskmaster and the Media Machine stuff, the Constraint Finder, the growth plan, the Media Machine stuff, that's all done in the last week. But Taskmaster's been ongoing now in direct pursuit, direct development as a software for a year, maybe a little less than a year. And Media Machine, about the same amount of time. Cannon Maker, you're welcome to come in, check that out. Let's see, actually have one more thing to show you. Let's get into the good one. If you're going to start somewhere in your reader, you can come in as the physics of asymmetry. Each of these are actually lead magnets, but there's a full reading experience baked in. So you can just come through and start listening.
And mythologized for 2 centuries. The version that survives most accounts holds that he first stood visibly at his customary tilt in the exchange, then sold. A small, conspicuous sale designed to signal to the watching traders that he had received bad news from Belgium. The floor panicked.
Yeah, it's a full reader, and we've got that for all the books. Still a few things that need detail management, and we'll get there. All of that is the basis from which we are going to deploy a full media center that tells the stories defined in our books and builds a case for the principles that we believe in. And again, a very compelling story-centered video format. And we'll have a full media center here. This is very much under development, as you can see, but in the library will essentially sit underneath of this. So I'm really excited about this. This is a passion project, and the first kind of couple of videos are here. I can do it. In the last lesson, this is what we're talking about. All right, let's get back into it. So this is what we're talking about. We're going to think of these videos. We've got a couple different formats in mind, but we're going to try to max out on production quality and make the entertainment value on these things pretty high. So they're lasting and they're relevant, and the comprehension is as high as we can get it for these things. Is I think people need the mental scaffolding, the mental material to make good decisions, and the days and weeks to come to be discerning leaders and good stewards of what we've been blessed with as solopreneurs, specifically is who I primarily work with. So that's that. We'll get more into this, but bottom line, you basically get stuff generated for you, and you say what you like, what you don't like, what you super like. It's hard to say I don't like that one, but you basically just swipe it. It's mobile optimized, really efficient, and under the hood, it's beastly in terms of the automation, like what it actually uses to make. It's funny. There we go. So that's part of it. The other part is in the database. The other part is in the code, but it produces some pretty cool stuff. And certainly excited to scale this up, to learn more, to fine tune and to calibrate this to be as valuable as possible to our clients and to our community members. So that is a bit of a mid-quarter update, a bit of a live stream, external processing, extemporaneous speaking, the thing. If you like this video and want more, let me know. If there's anything you disagree on that I covered, let me know as well. I'll respond to those comments and we'll keep the dialogue going. I appreciate you all. Thank you again for your support and investment in what we're building, and I'm looking forward to what's to come. All right. I'll see you guys in the next one. Over and out.